Hi, my name's Louise. This is a picture of me and my brother Andrew. When Andrew was 4 when he was diagnosed, and I was 2 years old at the time, he was always quite affectionate to me, and this is a photo that I quite like. My parents have told me that I used to sit in between his knees like that, and he would sort of nibble the back of my head as like a sign of affection. I think one thing that is, I've been asked to speak by Tony about the siblings perspective, and I think one thing that always comes to mind is that when you're an adult who receives a diagnosis about your child, you've always got this, what life is like before and what life is like after. But for a sibling who is quite young, like I said, I was only 2 at the time, it was something that I'd just grown up with. There's not really any before and after for me, it's just being the after. And I know that it has influenced my life, but I can never tell people exactly how it has. But one of the things that I think it has is just, I've done a degree in nursing, but almost about to complete that, and although, I mean, I might have been a nurse anyway, I'm not sure, but I think his strength and determination is something that has influenced me to go into nursing and want to help people. Being so young when he was diagnosed, I don't remember a lot of the experiences. People ask me if I remember what he was like, and I do remember him, but it's not, I don't remember everything. I still have to refer to my parents about a lot of things that happened. And I think that although I don't remember a lot of experiences and have a lot of memories, for example, I don't really remember Andrew like this, walking around and talking, and playing together. There's still videos of us doing that together. But although I don't have the memories of those experiences, there's still this huge emotional, I don't know how to describe it, but there's still this emotional reaction that I have if I talk about Andrew in detail. It's really easy to say things, well, like when people ask me how old I was, how old he was, about the condition, but if I speak about Andrew in sort of any more detail than that, I always get quite upset. And I think that just shows that even though I don't fully remember, there's still something there. I also still can't comprehend how young I was at the time. When Andrew passed away, he was 9 years old, and I was only 6. And if I think back to memories of that time, I always sort of picture myself as, even though I was still picturing myself as a child, I picture myself as older. I think, oh, I was sort of 11 when that happened. But then I think, no, I can't have been, because when he passed away, I was only 6. And I think this has to do with how fast I had to kind of grow up, because my mum said that I had to do that because she was helping Andrew get dressed and put on his shoes and everything, so I had to learn how to do that stuff myself when I was at a much younger age. And I think as well that something that was discussed in the reflections group yesterday that Elizabeth ran was that we put pressure on ourselves. And for a long time I thought that I was a bad sister because I felt like I hadn't been there enough for Andrew. But a few years ago in Elizabeth's reflection group, my dad actually was telling Elizabeth about some of the things that I'd done, and he just assumed that I remembered because it was me that had done it, but I hadn't actually remembered. And that made me feel a lot better, like I hadn't been a bad sister, and to remember actually how young I was at the time. Another thing that I've thought about when thinking about sibling experiences is that although I have an older half-brother and sister, I've never lived with them. They're a lot older than me. Most of my childhood I've sort of been an only child, from being 6 onwards. And I always just assumed that everyone else who was an only child felt the same way, felt that they were lonely or that they needed somebody else. But then when I was sort of 14, 15, I spoke to a few of the people who were only children. They were like, no, I like being an only child. And I think it's because it's different when you had something and then lost it compared to not having it in the first place. And this is how I mainly remember Andrew being quite unwell and not being able to walk around. This is in our conservatory downstairs, which was adapted, so he had somewhere downstairs that he could relax. Something that I think happens with children as a way of normalizing experiences is incorporating it into play. And I know that I sort of got given things from nurses when Andrew was in hospital. So I had like a mask and like syringes and stuff that I was given. And I think some of my friends just thought it was a bit odd that I was putting masks on dolls and like injecting them with stuff, and they're like, this is really odd. But to me it was just normal. It was something that was every day. And another thing that got incorporated into my play was somebody from Bernardo's would come round and sort of do play therapy with me. Not that I realised that at the time. I was like, oh, it's just someone else to play with. It was about me going on an adventure with all my animals on my boat that was actually my bed. And there was always a dolphin which I looked after, and the reason was he had a broken flipper which was wrapped in a bandage, and I looked after him because I knew that one day he was going to be released back into the wild and I'd have to say goodbye to him. But until that point I was going to look after him as best I could. And obviously at the time I didn't realise the significance of this, and it was only years later the woman kindly wrote a little book for me about it, and years later my dad brought it up and I just read through the story and I was just crying because I then realised the significance of how I was preparing to say goodbye before I had to through my play. This is a picture of all of us. It's actually only one of the pictures that we've got of all 4 of us. That's me in the middle at my christening. Even though Andrew passed away 17 years ago last month, and in July we also celebrated what would have been his 26th birthday, we still always go out for those occasions. And more recently I bought a little white dolphin, marble dolphin, which is at the conference this weekend, and we just placed that on the table in the seat where he would be if he were here. Thank you very much for listening.